For less than $100 a month, you could have a team of agents working for you at all times. I actually have my AI agent 24/7 negotiating all of my brand deals.
Chris Camillo, who's like an investor, he said you can probably make $500,000 a year doing this.
Yes. I think there's a lot of opportunity in learning how to create a good employee and then selling those employees to companies. I think that'll be a massive trend.
What is the thing that you would advise or suggest that someone listening at home goes and does?
In this video, we'll create an agent, create one together. Like we can come up with an idea and I'll show you exactly how to set up a cron job, which is just an automation, and then we can test it.
12 months ago, we had a conversation that led to hundreds of thousands of people vibe coding and building their first app with AI. And so where I want to begin today, for the person that's sitting at home, if they watch this video to the end, what are they going to be able to do as a result that they can't currently do now?
Yeah, I think my main two goals for this episode is one, to explain what an AI agent is and kind of conceptually, I think it's really important for people to actually understand what's going on at least a little bit behind the hood in terms of what an AI agent is. And then we're actually going to create an AI agent, right? We are going to build an AI agent that will be useful to me. I'm going to go like from setting up an AI agent to actually have it running so that it does things automatically and every day that's like really useful for me and my business. And I think it is the most important thing for people to understand right now in the world of AI.
Mm-hmm. You know what? You said it's the most important thing for people to understand right now in the world of AI. If we rewind 10 months ago when we had the first conversation, everything that you were speaking about and where your energy was with building apps, this new ability to build software, like for non-technical people using AI. Can you just get people up to speed? Like what has changed from 10 months ago to where we are now, where everyone's talking about AI agents?
Yeah, so the term vibe coding was basically just using agents to build apps, right? That's all it was, right? You have really smart AI models, you type in your idea for an app, and the AI agent generates all of the code for all of the files. It can edit files, it can delete code, it can do anything within like a directory, and then it can build an app and you can immediately start using the app. And many people have actually made money selling software that they've completely vibe coded, right? Without any coding experience. Now, it turns out that those same coding agents, like Claude Code, are incredibly good at just doing general tasks, right? If you think about any reason or all the software that you use, whether it's like a CRM, whether it's Notion, all these different things, it's usually to accomplish a goal. So people were vibe coding apps to accomplish a goal. People started realizing that you could actually just give these agents skills, and the agents could actually do those tasks directly. It didn't need any software in the middle to do it. The agents could just start doing all of the tasks, whether that's just handling all of your email, right? As a content creator, you probably get reached out to by many people every day, probably many companies reach out to you. And I actually have my AI agent 24/7 negotiating all of my brand deals, and I actually don't even need to be in there. And I used to have a really good manager who would manage my sponsorship deals. And I basically gave it all of the data from the previous brand deals. And now the agent just directly negotiates with companies on my behalf. And so that's where this is moving across all industries. And that's why you're hearing about, a lot of companies moving spend to creating AI agents.
Yeah. You said that's where it's moving across all industries. I remember when we spoke previously, you gave the example of like Peter Levels and these apps that he was vibe coding. And I think at the time he was making like $300,000 a month vibe coding apps. If we were to move the conversation forward to AI agents and how people are using things like OpenClaw or Manus or even Perplexity Computer, can you just share some examples of how people are using almost like these AI agent workflows in their businesses or to make money or like in their professional lives. Can you just share what you've seen?
Yeah, so I think obviously the biggest use case now is still coding, right? Because there's been a lot of like people are just building internal tools all day long that are super useful for their business. And the reason why it's so exciting right now to get into these general AI use cases is because it's brand new. People are starting to realize it can do like general things beyond building apps like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. So it's brand new. And so all of these use cases are brand new. Some of them aren't perfect, but we're reaching a point where they're becoming perfect. Now, the one that's probably OpenClaw was incredibly unique in that it was an agent that just ran 24/7 on your computer. A lot of people are using it for project management, and a lot of people use it for daily recaps. So it has access to my email, it has access to Linear, it has access to Notion, and my calendar. Basically, all of the tools that I use to run my business, OpenClaw has access. And so if OpenClaw thinks that there's something important that it needs to tell me, it'll just do it. And that is kind of what we'll talk about later today is there's levels of autonomy, right? You can create, on one side of the spectrum, you can create an automation, which is like a trigger. So if something happens, then the agent will do that. But now, what OpenClaw did is they released a feature called Heartbeat. And the Heartbeat is basically says to OpenClaw, it says, wake up every 30 minutes and decide if you want to do something, right? The agents are starting to decide when it needs to do stuff, which is a whole new paradigm, right? And so the level of autonomy is increasing over time, and the length of time an agent can work productively is increasing over time. So they're getting more autonomous, and they're able to work on harder and longer tasks. And I think by the end of this year, we're going to be measuring how long they can work in days, not in hours, which we're currently up to like 6 or 7 hours that agents can work.
Yeah.
So it's a really exciting time.
Okay, so you mentioned that it's a really exciting time. You mentioned that we're kind of entering this new paradigm. I remember a few months ago when OpenClaw kind of shot to prominence, and you're seeing everyone, at least like on Twitter, like in these tech circles, they're buying like Mac Minis. They're getting set up in a weekend. Everyone's like going deep with it, and from what I've heard from you, and I think you have a really interesting vantage point because you're deep in this world, but your background wasn't in being a coder or like a software engineer or like a deep tech like insider. And so my question is for you, if we project out, especially as this technology becomes more and more autonomous, you talk about Heartbeat. What do you think it's going to be able to do if we project forward a year from now, 2 years from now? Like, what does this mean for people?
What does it mean for people? It means that basically everyone within a year will be able to have a team of AI agents working for them or alongside them or with them for, I think it'll start off a little bit more expensive. It might be $200, $300 a month, but as the models get a little bit better and for cheaper, I think for less than $100 a month, you could have pretty useful AI agents, a team of agents working for you at all times. And I think people who build businesses that have like true value and if you're able to actually leverage AI agents to like help propel your business, those people are just going to be really successful. And so learning how to think in systems will be probably the most important thing people can do. And AI agents will feel more and more like talking to a person, right? When you hire a new employee, you have to like train them. You have to teach them like what your company does. You want to show them what a good outcome looks like. Maybe you hire a researcher for your podcast. You kind of want to train them a little bit, and then you want to like set them loose. And eventually they'll be able to just do tasks for you like an employee. And so I think over the next 2 or 3 years, it'll just feel like hiring an employee. Anything that you can do on the computer, you'll be able to just hire an AI agent to do the same thing. And so instead of paying them per hour, you'll be paying for the tokens for the AI tokens, basically.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was listening to this podcast with Chris Camillo, who's like an investor. And one of the things he said, he was talking about AI agents and OpenClaw specifically. He said, and he was talking about AI automation, like AI agents automating workflows and tasks. He said, you can probably make $500,000 a year doing this. There are people doing it right now. He goes on to then say, historically in the dot-com boom, the gold rush was trying to pick the right company to work for. You pick the right company and you have a chance of being rich. He said, this is a very different gold rush for this generation. It's not about who you choose to work for. You have to do it on your own, but the opportunity is near infinite with AI. The difference is the window is very small. It's like right now, it's this year. I'm curious because it sounds so hyperbolic. I'm curious, to what extent do you agree, disagree?
Yeah, I will say for the first part, I'm in San Francisco right now, and everyone who worked for OpenAI or Anthropic, when they IPO, every single person is going to make like $3 to $20 million. So like to work for one of the big AI labs is a massive opportunity right now, and I think you can actually make a ton of money working for the right AI startups right now. I think the growth is insane. So I will say that as a caveat, but I do agree with the sentiment around how there's a ton of opportunity to work on your own.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You know what? I want to get into AI agents specifically and how people can go about kind of building their first one. Before we do, in that quote, Chris Camillo mentions right at the end that there's like this window of time right now. And the way that he positions it and frames it as if it's like a limited window of time. Do you agree with that sentiment that like in the next year or 18 months or 2 years, there's really like a unique opportunity to capitalize and use this technology either to build businesses or even for someone who's working at their job that wants to like automate workflows?
Yes, I do. And I really try and to give people urgency in other ways other than like, you have 2 years to capitalize on this or you're screwed. There's a meme going around in San Francisco called escaping the permanent underclass. I don't like that people talk about this. There's this idea that AI is going to get so good, you have 2 years left to like acquire money before it's just a bunch of elites who control the AI and then the rest of the permanent underclass. And it's a meme. And I think you should avoid that type of thinking. You should find other ways to motivate yourself. Like AI is here. Creating AI employees is kind of difficult right now. And when things are difficult, that's where all the opportunity is. As soon as it is super easy, as soon as you can just go to a site and click, yep, hire a new employee, and then boom, you have this employee, which is coming, and that might be 2 years away. As soon as that happens, right, all the value kind of goes to the companies who create those AI agents or the model providers. And so right now there's this moment of time where there's friction and it's hard. And that's what companies are willing to pay for. So in terms of creating AI agents or automations or starting a business, I do think it's a really good time right now to get in and you can make a ton of money doing it. Are you screwed if you don't do it in the next 2 years? I'm not sure. I wouldn't think like that.
Yeah, I like that. It feels like a balanced perspective. You know what, Riley, because just context for the audience, you and I had a conversation about a week ago. And during that conversation, you said something that the moment you said it, I wrote it down so that I could bring it up today. And basically what we were talking about is most people, when it comes to AI, they're familiar with like the LLMs, right? They're familiar with ChatGPT. They might, started using Claude recently. And you said something, you go, the $1 trillion battle that's going on between OpenAI and Anthropic. Anthropic are the creators of Claude. And it's interesting because it feels like every week there's a new product update, which is like a sizable leap forward. I want to actually get into some of these AI agents, but the amount that this is changing, like week over week, And I think about what we have with like Manus, we have Perplexity Computer, you have Claude Code, you obviously have OpenClaw. Like there's so many players and it's developing so quickly. Can you give people that context of where we're at right now? And then we can start showing people how to build.
Yeah. So, okay, so you named a bunch of tools, right? There's a lot of different tools right now on the market, like OpenClaw. You have Claude Code and Claude Cowork. You have Perplexity Computer. You have Manus. And I'm going to explain this in a little bit when I go through. I have kind of a presentation prepared as kind of a precursor to building the agents. But what separates all of these tools from ChatGPT is it's like an AI model that has access to a computer. And what we're seeing now is AI is getting really good at doing every single thing a human would do on a computer better and faster, which has massive implications. If you think of all the knowledge work, right? It is on a computer. If you work at Microsoft, you're doing most of your work on a computer. You're handling email. You're using maybe a suite of like 7 or 8 different tools to like accomplish tasks. AI is, Anthropic just acquired a company called Vercept, and Vercept is a computer use tool. And if you can actually test it. They have like a Vi agent that like if you give it a task, it'll just like quickly it literally controls your entire computer and completes tasks. And so what we're seeing is AI agents getting way smarter than the average human, and they're also getting better at controlling a computer than a human is. And so in terms of like where we are now, all of these different tools that I mentioned use a computer to accomplish tasks, but they all do it in a slightly different way, which I can break down in the next section if you want. Yeah. It is kind of a longer conversation.
Yeah. And so, you know what, because let's go ahead and show the presentation. And even while you're pulling it up, I'm curious because you run a company and a business. How many of these different agents that are like, how many do you even have running as we speak and like doing tasks for you? Okay, so you just heard Riley talk about the power of AI agents, and listening back to it, it reminded me of this new tool that I've been trying lately called Gamma Imagine. And so to give you the backstory, I had this cool idea for a visual that I wanted to put at the end of our Instagram reels. And so the problem is that I'm not a design person, I'm not a trained designer, but often I have to come up with visuals. And I hate that like manual, finicky process where you're working around with these different templates and tools and it never works and it takes so much time. And so that was the process that I was stuck in, and it was incredibly frustrating. But luckily, in this world of AI, I thought to myself, there must be a better way. And so to take you guys behind the scenes for a second, I took the idea that I had for the Instagram reel. I simply typed it into Gamma Imagine, and within seconds, it produced stunning visuals like this. And another thing I love about using it is that it can come up with iterations and improvements really fast. You just type in the improvements, the feedback that you have for it, and it produces it on the spot. And so if you're in the position that I was in, where you're completely fed up with the manual design process and how time-consuming and frustrating it can be, I highly encourage you to go to the link in the description and try using Gamma Imagine. Let me know about your experience. I know you're going to love it. Okay, so I'm going to share a story from my early days of building my company. So back when I started, I wanted a website for the show. But when I tell you, building one was such a struggle. I would watch design tutorials. I tried copying other people's websites that I was inspired by. None of it worked. And the worst part is it took hours, sometimes weeks for me to do this, and it didn't look any good. And that's why I'm excited to share with you the sponsor of today's episode, our friends at Hostinger. And Hostinger makes it so easy to build a beautiful looking website. All you have to do is you open their website builder, you describe how you want your website to look, and within minutes, you will have a beautiful looking website. And after you launch your site, let's just say you wanted to start sending emails. You can also use Hostinger for that. You don't have to subscribe to a new email software. So Hostinger has emails, automations, websites, and AI tools all built into one. And so You're probably thinking, okay, that sounds good, but there's no way that I can afford all of this. Well, that's actually the best part about using Hostinger. The price is designed for people who are just starting out. And so if you have a business idea, or let's just say that you're looking to build a beautiful personal website, go to the link in the description and start using Hostinger today. Thank you to Hostinger for partnering with us on this. Let's get back to it.
We're a software company, and every part of our workflow is run by AI agents. So from generating the code to checking the code to basically automating like customer support, it's 95% automated. Like whatever we can replace with an AI agent, we do. And it's really cool to see. And now as a marketer, more and more, like right now, all of my DMs and outreach to people to test kind of a new software platform we're releasing is done with AI agents. And so at any given time, like I think I have like right now I have like 7 or 8 different AI agents working every single day just for me personally. But our team, like we spend 6 figures a month on AI tokens just for the AI agents that we use internally. So that gives you a sense of scope.
And you would say, it sounds from your experience, the most useful use cases right now is customer support and marketing.
Yeah. And then just like executive assistant tasks as well. And just organization, like I get hundreds of emails a day. I get so many YouTube comments every single day across my videos. I have an agent that just analyzes all of the comments I have it as a weekly workflow, and we'll talk about creating an automation or a cron job that it's basically an agent that does a super long task. And so but the point is here is like these agentic workflows aren't just like plug and play. They're very catered towards, they mold into your existing workflows. They use my tools, and you may use different tools. Like I use Notion, Canva, and Linear like every single day, but you might use a completely different stack. But the point is these agents can mold to whatever tools that you use. And that's what makes them so useful.
Yeah. Just before we get into it, because I know you mentioned that your company is currently spending 6 figures a month in like just the tokens to run these agents. And I want to make this clear for people. What is, just as an individual looking to get started on this, what would be my setup cost? I know people have spoken about like Mac Minis. You have to buy the $800 Mac Mini in order to, like, how much would you say for a beginner looking to just start building their first AI agent to handle one workflow? What would the cost of that be?
To handle one workflow, I mean, you could use Claude Cowork, or you could use a hosted version of OpenClaw for $20 a month to handle one specific workflow. If you had one workflow that ran once a day, that may cost you like $20 a month. You may cost you $30 a month, depending on how long the task is. Maybe you have a really long running task that spins up sub-agents, which is actually a lot easier than it sounds. That may cost $50 a month. But it is not that expensive, and you do not need to buy a Mac Mini. You can buy a Mac Mini, and I encourage people, if you have spare time and you're genuinely curious, yes, and you have some disposable income, go buy a Mac Mini.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, so this is a quick presentation, and I think this is super useful when I think the easier it is to set up an AI agent, the more you are just a consumer of this technology. I think it is very important to understand, at least at a conceptual level, what's going on under the hood of an AI agent. And so let's think about the goal for today practically, right? Build a skilled AI agent that can help you with work, right? So in order to do this, we need to understand something first, right? What is an AI agent? So let's dig into the simplest definition, and this is from Claude. I loved this definition. An AI agent is an AI model that runs tools in a loop, right? Okay, what does this mean? Let's break this down part by part. An AI model, right, like ChatGPT and like Claude, is just input, output, right? I ask a question. How do I change a tire without using any tools or doing any work, right? Input and output, right? We've all experienced ChatGPT. I won't dive into what an LLM is, but everyone has had an experience with an AI model, or at least you should have it by this point, right? You ask it something, you tell it to do something, text in, text out. Let's move to the next part, right? An AI agent is a model that runs tools in a loop. What is a tool, right? Input, tool use, right? So you can say, I want you to search the web, and the AI agent can think, and then it can search the web. As we talked about earlier, with tools like Claude Code, it can also execute code. It can browse all of the files. It can, remember when I said agents can control a browser earlier? AI agents can actually control a browser. And it can actually decide when to control a browser. So even if you don't ask for it, it can actually start to use tools. And so this AI model can decide to use tools. And you can also you can search YouTube, you can search Reddit, you can download files, you can run Python, right? You can send emails, send texts. The point of this is every day, AI is getting better at using more and more tools to the point where anything you do on a computer, an AI agent will be able to do by the end of the year, pretty much. I'm very confident in this. This is not an exaggeration. Okay, let's get to the final portion, right? An AI model runs tools in a loop. So an AI agent is an AI model that runs tools in a loop. What do I mean by loop, right? Input goes into the AI model and it can use tools. We already covered this. But this loop right here, where it can use tools, the results get fed back to the AI model. It analyzes whatever happened while using those tools, and then the AI model can just decide to use more and more tools. So when you use Claude Code and it runs for 30 minutes, it's often doing research on coding best practices. It's looking at its skills. It's using different skills. It's doing all of these things in a loop until the AI agent decides that it's done. The model will be like, okay, here's your final response. So let's talk about this in practical terms here, right? So I'm going to say build an app that podcaster Callum Johnson would love. The AI model is going to start using tools because the AI agent will decide when it wants to start using tools. So it may search Callum Johnson on YouTube. I apologize if I misspelled your name. I made this super late last night. And then it might search YouTube. It can go to your YouTube. It'll analyze your transcripts. And then it'll get an idea of what types of apps you would want. And then all of that data gets sent back to the AI model. It may think again, and and now it's like, okay, I need to use some more tools. And then it may brainstorm app ideas. It may create a plan for an app, send that information back to the AI model. It'll write the code. It'll build the app, send it back to the AI model. The AI model will be like, okay, well, we actually need to test the app. So then it will actually spin up a browser, and it will actually start clicking around the app, making sure it's good, and it will evaluate the app. And then it will finally send it back to the AI model. And let's say it tested the app and it really liked the app. The AI model will be like, okay, that's pretty good. And then it'll be like, okay, now it's time to be done. And it'll send a message back to you and it'll say, here is your app. You can test it here at yourapp.com. And the point of the AI agent and what makes it agentic is that it will actually decide how long it loops for. An automation is just input, sets of steps, final response. Right? An AI agent is input, model thinks, uses tools in a loop for as long as it wants to, and then once it thinks it's completed the task, or sometimes once it decides that it's impossible to complete the task, it'll just be like, okay, I'm done. Here's the result. Here's your final response. Does that make sense?
So just to jump in, Riley. So the significance of this loop that you explained so well is it's actually going to get you to a useful output, right? Because it's going to keep iterating and getting better. I think we've all had that experience using ChatGPT where, especially in the beginning, a lot of people use it like Google, right? You just put the question in, it spits out an output. And a lot of the times you're like, this isn't even good. With the being an AI agent, it's going to keep that feedback loop going until it actually gets to a useful, more valuable output. Is that right?
Yes, and 100%. And to kind of piggyback on top of that, the more prescriptive you are in your original prompt, the way happier you'll be. So AI models are getting much better at thinking and much better at using tools to the point where it'll just kind of do the things you want it to do. This is a pretty bad prompt here. Build an app that podcaster Callum Johnson would love. It's my fault if the agent gets back to me and I test the app and it's just like, oh, this isn't that useful. It's like, well, I didn't give it any help. If I listed all the things that I wanted the app to do, and then I also told it what style I liked, or if I said, here's my website, use the style of my website, which AI is getting really good at doing, it would create an output that I want. And so being a good knowledge worker or being a good entrepreneur at this point is actually just coming up with really good prompts or being able to describe exactly what you want so that as the AI model is going through these loops, it knows what the final output should look like. And so that is the key. The name of the game is being able to clearly articulate what you want the AI agent to do, because it's getting better and better at just doing all of the things that you want it to do.
Yeah. You mentioned this, the significance of prompting. And I know even there's like jobs now, which is like the prompt engineer. Like your skill set is actually you're great at prompting AI. Where I wanted to go though, even in that example you gave of like business ideas or like revenue ideas for existing businesses, is that, because I'm thinking that's like an incredibly valuable use case right there. Of like, not only is it helping you brainstorm and kind of come up with these ideas, it can then like mock it up what like a V1 would look like. Have you, from your experience using it as someone who's actually spent time, like hours and hours and spent money like using agents, has that been a useful, like a valuable use case? Like, have you seen that it's effective at doing that?
100%. And yes, 1000%. One of my favorite things to do with an AI agent is to just kind of give it some freedom, right? I have some things that I want it to do very specifically, and then I have some things where it's pretty open-ended, where I will say every morning at 9 a.m., I want you to analyze everything, or analyze like maybe it's my email, my YouTube, and then my like it can analyze the database that we have that like tracks our new customers and where these customers are coming from. I want you to analyze it, and I want you to come up with a useful insight based on all of this data. And AI is really good at analyzing data. And then one day it'll just surprise you, be like, hey, I think you should do this because of this, this, and this, and this. Here's someone, 8 people commented on your videos that they want this feature. Like, you should build it. And then since it has access to your linear, it's like, it'll be like, oh, Saul on your team isn't that busy. And based on his previous tasks, I think he could create this. The IQ of an AI agent is getting insanely high. Like Opus 4.5, I think it's like 130, of an IQ of 130. If you give it all of your data and you say, analyze it, act as a chief operating officer and just analyze it and come up with one useful idea every single day and prepare it in a concise 1-page report and include hyperlinks to like relevant links, that can be incredibly useful. And so, like while I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, I can just read this report that an AI agent prepares. You don't have to use it, right? Some of the ideas you might be like, oh, I already had that idea, but like sometimes it'll be incredibly insightful. And so, yeah, to answer your question, like, yes, it is incredibly useful to create workflows like this.
Yeah. As you're speaking, I'm like coming up with, and I remember this happened the last time
I
that we spoke.
I think we'll get there. Like in this video, we're going, the next step of this is we'll create an agent and we'll create one together. Like we can come up with an idea and I'll show you exactly how to set up a cron job, which is just an automation. And then we can test it and we can actually see if it's valuable or not. So yeah, I think that'll be really fun. Here, can I just finish this up real quick? So I just wanted to get to one other point here around AI agents that run tools in a loop, right? We covered AI model, we covered tools, we covered loop, right? And I just kind of wanted to tactically show you, this is from 2025. I'm pretty sure it's up to 7 hours now, but look at this curve of this is the time horizon of software engineering tasks that LLMs can complete 50% of the time. So GPT-5, when it came out in 2025, could do tasks that were over 2 hours. We're up to 7 hours now in 2026, and this is only going to increase. And, and by the end of the year, I said this earlier, we'll be measuring AI agents in days, not hours. We'll be like, okay, AI, last month it could work for 4 days. Now it can work for 2 weeks. And that's coming. And so if we get back to our original goal, right, of we want to build a skilled AI agent that can help you with work. In order for agents to run most tools, you need to give the agent access to a computer. You brought up a Mac Mini. I said you actually don't necessarily need a Mac Mini. You could use a MacBook Pro, or you can use a Sandbox, just a hosting service that runs these agents in the cloud, right? And for coding, you can use Claude Code. For work, you can use CoWork. You can use OpenClaw. I didn't include Perplexity Computer, Manus, and there are some others, and there will be many more. For the sake of this, I like to use OpenClaw, so I'm going to show you how to get set up on OpenClaw. Do you want to hop into this, or do you have any questions?
No, okay. I'm excited. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah, let's create it. So for this, I'm going to use, so you can use Hostinger, you can use Chorus, which is what I use, chorus.com. You can use, you can create a VPS directly on AWS. There's many services that you can use that allow you to spin up an agent on the web. And so this is a brand new agent that I created right before you, and I'll show you the process of creating an agent. You can just literally create new agent, and you can just click like salesperson, and then you can go through and just connect it to all of your things, right? And you go through this process. When I hit done, it does take 2 minutes because it needs to spin up a virtual computer, and I don't really want to wait for that. So I've already gone through this, and I haven't set up, let me see here. Yeah. So this is just this Riley's OpenClaw agent. I haven't edited or added any integrations or skills yet. So after you go through the process, if you don't set up everything, this is what you get. You get an AI agent with a computer. And so all this is just like an AI chat running OpenClaw. And here we see all of the files that OpenClaw starts out with.
So
what separates...
Just to be clear, Riley, so just so people can follow along, this is almost like the sandbox, like this is the virtual computers like running it. That's why you're using a Hostinger or Chorus. Like, explain that part of it.
Yes. When let's say you bought into all the hype that all the influencers were talking about, and you went out and bought a Mac Mini. And then you brought it home and you set it up, and then you went to OpenClaw's website and you installed OpenClaw. What it would do is it would create a directory on your computer that looks identical to this. And you would have these certain files that make up your agent's personality, and it's pretty easy to set up skills. But the reason like some of these hosting services are better is like it's super easy to just set up skills. Like you can go to the skills tab and you can go to like the marketplace, and so like these skills are basically packaged abilities for your AI agent that you can just enable. And your AI agent is like consciously aware of what skills are available. Like it can go check popular marketplaces of skills, and it can install them just by, like you can just be like, hey, do you want me to install the 11 Labs skills so I can speak to you? And then you can just be like, yes. And then it will just do this automatically. And so this is just a very easy way to spin up an OpenClaw and then see all of its files and basically easily connect it to all of your stuff. And so that's what this is. This is a computer that runs 24/7 unless you delete your agent. I'm pretty sure, yeah, you can like delete your agent right here. And unless you delete your agent, this will run 24/7, and it will be as if you have a physical computer running. It's just running in the cloud.
Okay, super cool. And you know what? I love the way that you explained it, where the skills, it's almost like you're giving your agent abilities. And so the question that instantly comes to mind for me, is there such thing as giving my AI agent too many skills, like too many abilities? Is that a problem that people, especially in the beginning, kind of stumble into, where like it can almost do too much or too little? Share that perspective. Yes.
So this is a great question, and I'm glad you asked it, because people's first instinct when they set up OpenClaw is they're just like, what skills can I add? And they just start adding skills like willy-nilly, going crazy.
That's what I would do.
And if you think, right, no, and I that's what I did first too. I did it twice. I made the same mistake twice, and I had to cut the entire agent because it had like 80 skills. And if you think about it, just think about an employee, right? If you were to hire an employee and I'm way more comfortable hiring an employee that says they're really good at two things and they can achieve a specific goal, right? And I'm just like, yes, I want to hire this employee because they can predictably help me in X, Y, and Z because they're good at A, B, or C, right? As soon as you get that employee who's like, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, oh, I can help you with this, right? It gets scattered. And then the agent, because all of that information is stored on their computer, they're just files. We can actually click into the skills tab right here, like, you can go into the skills tab. This is just a representation of files that are running on your computer. Skills are just markdown files in the skills folder. This is the same for Claude. This is the same for OpenClaw. Here, right, we see home, right? This is on your computer. You see skills. And so as soon as you go and download like 30 skills to your computer, right, now your agent, anytime your agent wants to do a task, it analyzes what skills it has access to, and it only uses the relevant one when it needs to. If you have too many skills, it's going to use the wrong skill at a higher frequency. And so I found a sweet spot between like 7 and up to 15 to 20 skills. Anything above 20 skills, I think you get a steep drop off and it's not nearly as good. And so that's why I actually have multiple agents. And so here on the left here, these Zampa, I don't know where I came up with the name Zampa. This is my personal agent that I use through iMessage. And so the coolest thing that OpenClaw did is if you go into connections and go into communications, you can see here that you can just text it. Or you can go into Telegram and you can add it to Telegram. Or you can go into Slack, you can add it to your Slack. And so that's what's happening right now is people are putting these useful agents that control a computer into where you already message other humans. And so now you can just like add them to group chats. That technology hasn't been fully figured out. Like it's not perfect yet for creating group chats, but that's coming.
To your point, it's like a super powerful, like assistant in that way.
Yes.
And then even go ahead.
No, I would love to you were talking about prompting earlier, and I would love to kind of talk about what's next in terms of like prompting. And it has to do with these files right here. And so, like this is really cool. So you've never used OpenClaw, right? So what separates OpenClaw from, and let's close this out. Let's close out everything that's not relevant, right? All we have here is just an AI chat that has access to files, right? It has access to these files. And so it says, hey, Riley, what do you want this thing to help you with, right? It'll just say something at the beginning. And I'm going to say, hey, please, like you can actually start off. So let's think about what we want this agent to do. Hey, your new name is CJ, and I want you to be to help me grow my YouTube. And so let me show you something here. So when you message this OpenClaw agent, so I have this open over here. Oh yeah, so I guess the onboarding changed for this. So here it just suggested skills that we can use. So I'm going to do YouTube search, YouTube competitor analyst, trend spotter. So you can see here, OpenClaw just kind of like came up with skills that would be useful for me. And now it's setting them up, which is pretty cool.
So it's like walking you through, it's almost like handhold, like step by step through the process of getting you onboarded.
Yeah, and it's OpenClaw did this first, and that's why it was the fastest growing software ever created. Oh, services overload. I guess it's getting a lot of usage. Here, we can just create a new chat here. Let's create a new chat. We don't want to be in the onboarding. I want you to edit your soul.md file such that soul.md file and other necessary files, right? I like to say this at the beginning, files, so that you are obsessed with helping me grow my YouTube channel, right?
So
here
it's like
we're telling...
Step one is like, you're just stating your goal. Just plainly, simply stating your goal.
100%. The first thing that you should do with your agent when you start off, right? So right now, it's like, now let me update soul.md and identity file. Let's take a look at this beforehand. Hopefully it doesn't change first. This is OpenClaw, right? OpenClaw OpenClaw created these files called soul.md. So as you use your agent, it will automatically update these files, right? It'll update the soul.md file, and the soul.md file. So we can actually see here, we can click on identity. Your name is Algo, and I can say, no, make your name CJ, right? You can pick its name. And this is useful when you have multiple agents and it starts messaging you on texting here. But you can see here, it's actually like making changes to the different files. And you can see like, here's the identity, the user.md. It knows my name is Riley Brown. And when I first set it up, it sets up with my email. And so it actually went into my integrations. It actually learned about me just based on my email. Notes. So I can say, no, make your name CJ. My account is, and then we can actually just go to YouTube real quick and we can snag the URL, or we can tell it to look it up. But I can just go Riley Brown. And
as you do it, what comes to mind? It is like it's like onboarding an employee. I think if you had like an employee joining your organization or your team at work, like all of the things that you would have to share so that they could then go and do their job.
Yes. And you're always doing, and so when you asked earlier, you said like, is prompt engineering a real profession? And I would say no. Someone came up, I think it was Andre Karpathy. He started talking about how it's context engineering. It's not prompt engineering, it's context engineering. And so your goal, whenever you're onboarding an agent or working with an agent, you want it to be aware of context. You want to guide it to the right context. And let me show you what I mean by this. I think, we're onboarding this guy to help me grow my YouTube, right? I've grown from 40K subs to 200K subs last year. This year, I want to get to 500K, let's say. If I'm onboarding this person, I want them to understand my goals, right? In order for it to suggest good videos to make, it should know my last 10 videos. It should know the transcript. It should know these things. Well, guess what? All of that is built into OpenClaw. And so when you use like Chorus, on Chorus, they have like a skill here. This SUPA data allows you to just find any link on YouTube and immediately convert it into a transcript. And so I can say, please look at my channel. Please look at my last 10 videos and summarize my my interests, my teaching style, and my hooks. This will take a little bit longer, right? Because it has to do all of these tasks. And like I said, if we go back to, if I go back to this slide right here, right? Soon it's going to be hours that this agent can just work for you. I mean, this will take 10 minutes, but like soon you'll be able to give it way longer tasks. Okay, summarize my interests, teaching style, and anything that would be relevant to you, for starting as my assistant, right?
So one thing that immediately comes to mind, because Riley, I literally did this, I want to say 2 weeks ago, because I was trying to get set up on Claude. And I wanted to create like a project which had this context on me. And so I had to go into my YouTube channel, get the most popular videos, figure out a way to get the transcript. I then had to upload the transcripts like PDFs one by one into Claude's like backend so it had this context. If I'm not mistaken, you put super data as one of the skills, and then you just put the link to your channel, and it's able to go and do that work itself.
Yes, it would have found it regardless. I could have said, hey, my name's Riley Brown, I make content on AI. Like, it would have gone and searched. It would have figured out a way to find that information. Yeah, like, look, it's like saying, like, now let me pull transcripts from a few ones and I'll analyze it. And you see, it's just kind of going at its own thing. Like, it's still working. And what's cool about this is soon, how like we're adding skills and then using it? Soon, these AI models, you'll give it a long task, and in the same response, it'll add the skills it needs, and then it will use them in the same like run. So it'll get a skill and use it in the same one. So like you might give it a long task, and you might come back to like a fully completed document of whatever you're trying to do, and you'll find out that it gained 3 skills in that process, which is pretty interesting.
So it's almost like it's over time, it's just going to get more and more autonomous. And I think about what you showed in the beginning in that diagram, right? Where you have like the input. It feels like a year ago when I was using ChatGPT or Claude, I had to put so much input and so much context and like give it all of these things so it could give me the output I wanted. It feels like increasingly over time, we're getting to the point where you just state the outcome that you want, which is like, I want to grow my YouTube. It will make sure that it has everything it needs and the context and transcripts and skills in order to achieve that outcome.
Yes. And your job now, while it's still not perfect, right? It's not superhuman intelligence. It doesn't just have control over everything, is you just want to be able to monitor its outputs and be like, okay, what context would have been more useful? And what you can do, so these skills are almost like recipes, or you can think of them as just standard operating procedures. I have an SOP for everything in my content pipeline, like the way my editor edits my videos. There's a standard operating procedure, and you can figure out where the agent commonly makes mistakes, and then you can go in and just change the skill file. Yes, I can just automatically install these, but I can also come in here and edit the skill directly, right? You can literally edit the skill. And so you might just put, you can create your own skill and make it a standard operating procedure. And when you notice the AI make mistakes, you just include it in the skill so that it doesn't make a mistake in the future. And so the game is not only stating the outcome, but it's also evaluating the outcome based on what you wanted, right? Which is called evals. There's a lot of companies that all they do is they focus on evals, like evaluating how good your output is. And depending on that, you're just kind of changing the prompting or the skill. Or the skill file. So that's the game. It's like, what do you want? What did you get? How do you improve the prompt or the system so that it gets closer to what you want?
As it's working through this, because I know
it's actually done, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So here it created. So again, this is all really good. So as you can see here, you have the home file, and if we click on this, you see that the sub file here is memory, and then it just logged this on 4.2. So when the agent deems that it is important to log a memory, it just logs the memory, right? We're talking to this agent, and then it just creates a file in the computer that it's running in, right? And you can see here, it's like session start, channel analytics, and it's like hook patterns, bold claim, proof pattern, because it analyzed all of it analyzed 10 transcripts. It pulled 10 transcripts, these videos right here, and these are all of my recent videos. And then I can say, please make this a website with a public link. I can send to friends with hooks written in full of my top 5 videos from this. Create a report. So
as it's doing that, because you mentioned memory, like the significance of memory. Can you explain, first of all, what memory is? And then as we get further along the process, like we get deeper in the process, what is the impact? Like, what is the impact, to be honest, of it having memory?
So we talked about why OpenClaw was super useful. And the first thing was the fact that it made it super easy for you to connect it to like Intercom and Telegram, etc., and all of your emails and basically everything that you already use. And then they made it super easy to install skills. The third thing that it did is they had it automatically just log memory files. And so if you go into the files, you see a file like we see here, right? The top one is just memory. It has a memory folder. When it does something important that like maybe it's based on its system prompt of OpenClaw, it'll just log memories. The reason that's important is you may ask your agent to do a task 3 months from now. And what it can do is it can just search the memory, right? It can just go back to the memory files, and it can actually figure out what you've done previously, and that can actually help it, right? It'll just log its own insights. Or, and part of being a good prompter or being good with AI agents right now is basically if something is important, you can say like, I want you to always remember this. Please always remember this. And so it'll either log it in the skills file. If you have a specific skill it can attach a memory to, it'll do that. Or it'll just log these memory files, which it will check often. And as AI models get better, it'll actually get better and better at using memory. And so an AI model that just kind of remembers things is way more useful than one that doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's also what comes to mind for me, as you continue to use the agent, it's going to get more useful for your company because it's going to remember certain pieces of data and information and then be able to like hearken on that in the future.
Yes, 100%. Here, it's done with the website. So we can click on this. Boom. So look at this. So I told it to create this report, right? And you know, it's just top 5 videos with opening hooks. So I gave OpenClaw Blender skills, and look, it probably automatically embedded the link into it. Yep, there you go. So like you can just click on it. You have the links. Here it has the exact hook that I use. Today we're going to dive into the most popular AI tools. OpenClaw. Yep, this is the exact hook, right? It has the amount of views, the likes, 15 minutes. One integration I'm working on, it's actually hard to set up, is your YouTube analytics platform, which actually has all of the retention data. So you know how like Mr. Beast relentlessly analyzes his retention, and sees where people drop off? I'm sure you do the same. Like your intros for your podcasts are excellent. And you probably have found that like when you do an intro like this, you have better retention. When you have an intro like this, you might get worse retention. Your AI agent will actually be able to just analyze all of that data. And so if you give it a long enough time horizon to work, you know, and maybe you want to give it 3 hours to, we'll talk about creating these super long workflows in a bit. You can have it analyze, be like, okay, look at all of my videos I made in the last 6 months, analyze the hook and the retention, and figure out what videos were the best, what videos were the worst. And it will give you it'll surprise you. It'll give you a really great response. The problem is that integration right now is a little bit hard to set up, but I figured out how to make it easier. So I'll be talking about that in the future. But like here, hook patterns that work, bold claim plus live proof. Everyone's doing it wrong. Replace expensive thing. I built X without Y. And then here it has teaching style, and like this is just a website. And like I could literally send you this link right here, and it will just work. And so these get stored. I think these get stored HTML file. Yeah, so this is just in your public folder. And again, all of your apps will just go in this public folder, and you can open them up at any time. You just click on it. And so the same way you can have little apps on your real computer, right? I go to my dock, I have all these apps running. I can have little apps in my virtual computer that my agent can create, which is super fun. And this is just a single file, but this is super useful.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious now, Riley, because, and obviously you can share as much as you want, but looking at your channel in the last 5 to 6 weeks, there's been like a spike even in the performance of your videos. How much have you been using OpenClaw and like insights from these agents to actually help inform what videos you're creating, and I don't know, the scripting and the thumbnails and the packaging? Like, how much is OpenClaw responsible for that performance?
How much is it responsible for the performance? You know, maybe it's a 10% increase in quality of video. So I do have OpenClaw right on my hooks. The way that I think of my video, I think of my content's pretty raw. I like to talk, I like to go on tangents, I like to show my screen. So I decide what the most valuable thing I could share is. But actually, I get a lot of those insights from my YouTube comment analyzer. I actually just realized it's probably more important than I think. Because like you said, or like I said earlier, I do have that automation that goes every week that tells me exactly what people are asking questions on. And that's actually how I came up with this specialized agents. Because people were like, oh, I added too many skills. Like, how do I manage the amount of skills? And so I made a video dedicated to that. Boom, 100K views. So actually more. It really helps my decision making. But what I'll do is I'll outline the whole video that I'm going to make, and then I'll film the whole video, and then I'll film the intro. And now I have a workflow that like I feed it the transcript of the body of like, the 40 minutes that I film for my video, and I say, come up with an intro. It'll analyze all of my best performing intros, and then it'll just write the intro. Maybe I'll make a few tweaks, and then I'll just film it on my teleprompter. And I'm actually talking to you using a teleprompter right now. And so, yeah, maybe it's actually like pretty important, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, what else do I want to show? Okay. If you don't mind, I would love to kind of go over cron jobs, because this is, I think, one of the most important things. And also, actually, first, let me show you something. So what we can do here is, let's say you use Telegram. So this is Telegram right here. And all you do, if you want to like add a new account, right? This process is going to get a lot easier. I think Telegram's just going to kind of add it. Right, they have this weird feature where you have to go to bot father and you have to hit like new bot, and then it'll and then you name it. Right, I'll just say you don't actually like. You can just say like CJ, and then you have to give it a name for a bot. Like I'll call this like YouTube assistant guy bot, and so that's just an example of a way to connect it to Telegram. And so we can just immediately connect it to Telegram. The agent will then say, okay, let's get started, and it will actually just configure it. You can say, hi, are you live? See, CJ's already typing, right? And you say, yep, alive and beautiful, what's up, Riley? It already knows me. So this is a channel that I already use. The agent is alive in Telegram.
So if you had it installed on your phone, like Telegram, and you go into the app, you could see conversations, or even in like a group chat, you would be able to see this agent that you've set up, like its responses, like a conversation.
Yeah. This is my agent. And so I can say like, hey, like I could say, and so like we could, whatever we do here, right? We can go to skills. I actually don't know if we connected. Yeah, I didn't connect my, what's really important for me is connecting Notion, right? Look at how easy setting up Notion is. Boom. This is my studio team. Boom, done, right? If we create a new chat and there's skill available. So here, based on the connections, it has recommended skills for those connections. And so you can just hit install, right? And so now it installed here it installed the Google skill. Here we have the Notion skill. And so we can just immediately use Notion. And so if we go to the main chat, actually, let's go to this chat right here. Like, one thing that you can do if you want to like reset your chat, this is when you get kind of deeper into kind of the slash commands. You can like reset your agent, right? There's a lot of things that you can learn. Now what we can do is we can say, I'm going to say, first of all, do you have access to Notion? I always like to check. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to like set up the skill. I can say, I just added the integration and skill.
Can you share like, what are examples of how you're using it with Notion? Like what's the value of that integration?
Yeah. So again, my Notion, we can bring up Notion real quick. So here.
It's like your content database.
Yeah, we have a content database, right? On my table, if it shows the ones that are like, it's just all of my content that I've ever created. And in here, I have all the comments. So first of all, it can actually just like add stuff to Notion here. So let's say, not seeing a Notion skill. Interesting. Added. Sometimes it takes a little bit to install. I just added Notion. Skills. Maybe we can search Notion Marketplace.
It's helpful
Notion.
For people to see this.
Yes. And you just want to make sure that it just has access to stuff. Like when you add Notion, you want to make sure that it has access to Notion. I just added Notion.
And again, it's like strikingly similar to like having an employee. You know, you think you've given them access to a Google Doc or an email or like an account that they would need, but then they don't have it. And so you have to, like, that process actually feels very similar of like onboarding an employee.
Yes, exactly. It's very similar. And so I'm going to say, can you please look at, and we can go to, you can just test this out. So this is the Riley Content Database. I could give it this exact link, but it will just go find it. Riley Content Database, tell me what videos I've used recently. Right, or I've used, and then I can just do I've made. I don't know why I said used. So in here, what all software companies are doing right now, and what Notion's becoming an AI first company. And that doesn't mean like they're adding AI to their app necessarily, which they are, but they're also making it readable by any AI agent. So take a look at this, right? Here we have like all of the content that I've done, right? This is already useful. And I can say, please, so I could say, please, I have an idea for a video. I'm going to make a video on making an AI agent piano instructor, add this to my Notion and make the intro for it. Based on my long form videos and based on what you know about me in memory. And what you can do here, you can actually @mention, this is kind of more advanced, but like you can just @mention a folder. And so it'll actually look in the memory folder. You don't have to do that. That's more if you like create markdown files, because you can just add folders. Like this is just a full-on computer, right? I can go into, I'm going on in some different directions, but I just kind of want to show people that like, this is like a full-on computer that you can just like add things to. So like, let's say these screenshots, let's say these are important. You just drag them in. And so now you have a computer and you could tell the agent to analyze all of your photos and rename them based on what they are. You can tell the agent to do that. But yeah, that's just kind of a segue. It's like, this is just a full-on computer. But yeah, now it's just going to control Notion. And so we can actually probably see it happen live. Actually don't know where it's going to add it. But the point is it can control your Notion. Okay, let me add this to Notion and write the intro. Let's see where it adds it.
As it's doing this, the question that comes to mind, can you actually have these different agents interact with one another? So as an example, you have your comment analyzer on YouTube. Can that agent then almost like correspond with, I don't know, my content planner for Instagram? Maybe I want to take a comment that I got on YouTube and use that as the basis to create a video that I'm going to post as a reel on Instagram. Like, is there that level of integration yet between these different agents?
Yes, and there's many ways to do this. First of all, I'll get off this, but like you can see here, it created this Notion doc, right? Look at this. I said, AI piano instructor. It took all of the things that it knows about me, about my content. And this is the exact, obviously this is kind of a joke video idea. I'm not going to make this AI piano instructor, but it's like most people are using AI to write emails and summarize documents. Meanwhile, I just built an AI agent that can actually teach you how to play piano. That's like the exact, it is my voice. It knows how to make intros for me better than I do at this point. Okay. That's kind of the first part, right? And it just gave me a link, view in Notion, and it allows me to just view it in Notion immediately, which is pretty cool. To answer your question was how to get these to communicate. In terms of how getting these agents, so like you just asked, like, if you want your YouTube analyzer agent and your Instagram
like content creator agent, it was content scripting agent.
Yes, I would make those all one agent, first of all. So I would make them the same agent with different skills, and like each of these would be different tasks and different cron jobs, which we'll get to in just a second. So if you make them the same agent, it'll just share the same memory, which is really cool. Like it'll add things to the same memory, it'll update its soul.md file, and it'll say, these are the list of things that I commonly do for Riley, and it will just go off and do them, which is really cool. And so that's one way to do it. But if you literally have separate agents, the thing that you can do is you can have them share a notebook. And so in Notion, like you could make your agent log everything in Notion. Let's say whatever your findings are, right? Let's say it generates a report. You can say, please upload this to Notion and put it in this database. You could have another agent that also stores things in the Notion database, and it'll mark which agent is which, right? It'd say, make sure to put CJ in for all of your entries. And so if you do that and you give your agents a shared notebook, like on Notion, they both can use it and then they both learn from each other. And so that's how I'm seeing companies. I've talked to a lot of companies and trying to figure out how they do it. They have agents, different agents that share the same notebook. And so they're instructed to always check that every day, and it will add relevant information to their computer as memory. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And to build on that point, because you said the way that you would do it, you would just all have it within one agent so that they have the same memory. And so do you think about them almost, these respective agents, as like verticals? Like a company would have their content agent, and that would be working on, it could be working on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, but it's like the content vertical. Then you might have, I don't know, the customer support agent. Is that, I guess, in your companies and even for you personally, is that kind of how you separate the different agents in your mind?
Yes, I think I do separate them by vertical, or I separate them by like what context is useful to the agent, right? If I have an Instagram agent, I think it would be very relevant to have shared context with anything about YouTube, or Twitter or anything, right? Because like you've probably figured this out, that like what you do on YouTube, you can probably clip or take a graphic from and you can put it on Instagram. And so that context is very relevant, right? I run a company and I run a software company and and I run content. I use content to help the business, but sometimes something like customer support is not relevant to my Instagram, right? So those agents would probably be separate, right? That context would only confuse the customer support agent. What's important for the customer support agent is it has all of the necessary information on how to help people when they submit a request on like, how do I fix my app? Or, like, how do I deploy my application, right? You want to make sure that the information it has access to is relevant to that specific goal. And and like you want to have, if your agent has multiple goals, you want to make sure that they're aligned, right? Like if you have a content creator agent, you might have 5 goals: grow YouTube, grow LinkedIn, grow Twitter. Those kind of move in unison. If you're growing on Instagram, it's probably more useful to grow on TikTok. So you want kind of these like aligned goals for your agent. And if they have completely separate goals where they're just like independent of each other, should probably be a separate agent, in my opinion.
That's really valuable in terms of how to almost define and plan out your agents. It's like shared context, shared goals.
Yes, exactly. You got it. And then, it's just like making sure that like the things that your agent does are useful for that goal. And so I think to kind of, the one thing I do want to talk about before we go is I do want to talk about cron jobs. So like here we have no cron jobs. Cron job you can think of as an automation trigger, right? This is just like N8N or Zapier, except you're triggering an agent to work. So like that example earlier, I'm going to say, okay, I want you, now that you have access to Superdata, Notion, and my email, I want you to generate a report every morning. I'll zoom in here just so people can see a little bit better. Generate a report every morning that helps me come up with ideas for YouTube. Be creative, generate a report, look at YouTube comments if you need to, and that's part of Superdata or SERP. There's another skill in here. If we go to Marketplace, here we have the SERP API, which will actually allow us to get YouTube comments. And again, these are all important things to know. It's like what tool, and this is just an API. And we don't need to talk about what an API is, but like learning what an API is will allow you to get relevant context. So all of this is relevant. Look at comments if you need. Please send me a report, a markdown file, and public link, markdown file stored in documents. And right, we can mention documents. I like to just kind of and public link of this report. Please create.
And to be clear, most of the context it's using to generate this report is just the fact that it knows your channel. Like it just has the link to your channel, and I guess it has the access to your Notion.
Yeah. And that's likely all it needs, right? If it had access to my Notion, it would know who I am and it would be able to find that information. And you'd be surprised like what it's able to like connect the dots. Like it'll fill in the blanks. So like it probably would have got it just with me connecting my email. Like it would have been like, okay, his name is Riley Brown. Like I'll look him up on YouTube. Okay, this is his YouTube channel. Okay, like, and based on the YouTube channel, it'll just gather its interests. You know, if I were to say like, hey, I want you to write a script like me, it probably would have just figured out like, okay, it's Riley Brown, here's his YouTube channel, let's go check it out. And then it probably would have been, at this point, it probably would have come back to me and been like, hey, it would be super useful if you gave me access to the YouTube transcripts. You should download the Superdata API skill, and it would just do that.
And in my mind, it's like I'm so glad that you shared it in the beginning. It's the loop, that it's like using that loop to get to those insights. And it's interesting because what I thought coming into the conversation is that you would need a weekend or weeks in order to set this up to the point that it could have valuable outputs and like outcomes for someone that's listening at home. But it sounds like, I don't know, how long would you even estimate it would take for someone to get set up within a vertical, like one workflow, and they could actually start generating like valuable, helpful outcomes?
I mean, 20 minutes. I mean, how long have we been doing this for? And I've been talking for most of it. And so you say useful in there. And remember what I talk about. It's like, you should never expect the AI agent to just create something useful for you, because what's useful for me might not be useful for you. Maybe you're just starting out on YouTube. Maybe you don't have 200,000 followers like me, and you might need it to do something slightly different. But the point is like, okay, in this time, we connected it to all the relevant information, and now we gave it a cron job, right? It can now do things. So like every day it is going, like you can see the full prompt here, right? You are CJ, Riley Brown's YouTube growth strategist, but like you don't even need to look at this. Let me zoom out here for a sec. Yeah, we created this, and this will run every single day. And what we can do is we can test it. And I'm just going to test it right now. We can hit run. All of your cron jobs will start a new thread, and it will be thread cron. So here we can, it's initiating. It'll get started in just a second. But basically, it will start doing this task, and you can play it however many times you want. And so the goal is, if it's not super useful immediately, what you do is you can run it. It'll generate the full report. You can look at it and be like, okay, please edit the cron job, or you can say edit the cron job to make it so that the report is more like this. And then the agent will be like, okay, I just changed the cron job. It's now more like this. And then you can go back to run. You can run it again. You can look at it. You can be like, yes, this is useful. Keep doing this every day. And what I like to do is I just like to set up a bunch of like automations like this, where the agent will go off and do things. And every single time I read one, I say like, hey, from now on, I want it to be like this. Just like an employee that's receptive and good at kind of adapting. The next time it creates this report, it will do that thing. And so that's the name of the game here, in my opinion. It's just like having it do something and say, yes, that's good, or no, you can do better. Do it like this.
And so when you say do it like this, an example would be, I want a summary I want this report in the format of like a summary at the top, and then bullet points underneath, and I want it to only be on one page maximum. Like that level of feedback. Is that what you mean?
100%. And another thing that you can do, if you've ever hired someone to make a report like this, you can just upload the PDF straight to the computer and then or you can upload it straight to the chat and be like, I want it to look like this. And what it will do is, in the skills folder, right? If we go to the files folder and we go into skills, if you like click into, let's say, YouTube competitor analysis, here, this is just a skill.md file. But what you can also do in this folder that has the skill.md file, you can add a folder and that you could put like references. And then in the skill, you could say, please look at the references whenever you use this skill, and it will just generate it exactly like whatever's in the references. You know what I mean? Like you can give it an example and put it in the skill so that it always looks a certain way, which I think is really, really useful. But you can see here that the cron job automatically started. This one is going to take a while, right? It's still going, but as soon as it's done, I can evaluate it and then tell the agent how to improve it in the future.
Interesting. So you're creating the automation, you're then having it fulfill the task, and then once you get the output, you're giving it feedback on the cron job so that it can improve it for the next iteration.
Yes. And here you can see OpenClaw just dropped a big release with task flows. I don't even know what this is. This is super useful. Like apparently OpenClaw had a new release and it's grabbing more details. It'll get back to me when it's done.
Yeah. You know, before we get out of here, with these cron jobs, how wacky and almost customized can I make it? If I wanted to instruct it that like after you create this report, I want you to send me an email at 9 a.m. every morning with the report like attached in that email so I can review it when I wake up. Like, can you get to that level of granularity?
You can go 10 times above that. You know, going back to this right here, like you basically want it to like generate the report and then send you an email. It can absolutely do that. And then it could generate a report, send an email, and then it can send an email to everyone at your company. You can absolutely do that.
Yeah. You know what, even as you're talking, kind of where I've landed with all of this, Riley, and I'm not as experienced as you, is we just have to start thinking about these AI agents and its capabilities as like an employee, and anything, it feels like anything that an employee could do, it's getting to the point where the AI has the capability to do that in a pretty autonomous fashion. If that's the case, I'm just curious because I know that you're an optimistic guy and we hear so much of like the doomsday scenarios with AI. What do you think that means for people that today in 2026, we're already at a point, and it's early, like you mentioned, where it feels like OpenClaw can handle much of the capabilities of just like an employee, but it just runs itself and it can run for longer and longer amounts of time?
What are the implications of it running for a really long period of time? I would say that of course I would describe myself as majority optimist. It's important to never like put myself into a bucket, either optimist or pessimist. I think it's good to kind of be like 70-30, right? You want to be a realist, right? You don't want to just kind of like, close your eyes to bad news and bad. Like when things are bad. And I will say in the short term, there will be many people losing their jobs to this. I think the people who learn this will be better to weather the storm. I think if many CEOs will be pressured to replace a lot of their work and save money, right? When new technology comes out and CEOs can save money, they will do it, right? Because or else their competitors will do it and then they'll put them out of business, right? It's kind of, they're pressured in doing it. And so if you can prove to the company you work at that you are able to think clearly and create agentic workflows for the company that can help the company, it's usually, I think you'll be way better off. And I also think that many really smart people who might be making 500K at Meta, they might be making a ton of money at Google, will be laid off. And I think a lot of these people will start companies. And I think it will be a lot easier to actually start companies and as a team of 2 or 3 and get the work done of a team of 20 in the past. Because and if you have like a little bit of startup capital and you're able to front the costs for the tokens, I think you'll be able to do a ton with a few people. So I think we're going to see a rise in smaller like startup companies that are like a handful of people. And I think this is really fun. And I think those people, like, you want to be very high in openness. You want to be like, it's helpful to be smarter, and it's helpful to just be if you're really good at managing a lot of people at the same time, you're probably going to be good at managing a lot of AIs at the same time. So I think getting really good at stating outcomes that you want, delegating to AI agents, and like you said, going through these evaluation processes and making sure that it's not just AI slop, and they're actual things that can help. If you want to create an agent that handles email, like you should probably test that a lot, especially if there's clients on the other side or potential clients that you can close the deal. You want to make sure that these workflows are set up in a way where it's really high quality. And so I would really focus on that, building agents that are really high quality, getting in a loop, improving them, making them better. And to do that, you need to really understand a certain niche or industry. I really understand YouTube and content creation, so I'm able to create really good agents. Someone who has no idea how to create a hook for TikTok or YouTube, they're not going to be as good at creating an agent for content creation. So you kind of want to learn a little bit about a lot of any area that's useful or any area that you're trying to create agents for. You do kind of want to be a domain expert, or else you don't know what AI slop is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you made that point, which is like your career isn't wasted. Like the fact that you have this level of expertise, because I think sometimes that's how it's presented with this AI stuff. It's like, oh, it just replaces you and it's over. It's like, no, your expertise is still valuable. You're just using it in collaboration with the AI. And one thing that I think I'm such a big believer in, Riley, is just getting to action and like that first action step as quickly as possible. Because for the person listening at home and also for myself, it's like you start building momentum when you take that first action step. And so, Riley, if you almost had to give someone, like, now that you've watched this, you've seen this conversation and you have all of these ideas and use cases, immediately after watching this video, what is the thing that you would advise or suggest that someone listening at home goes and does?
Good question. So what should someone do first, right? If you're getting started with AI agents, the first thing that you should do is automate one single task, right? Pick one thing that's annoying to you and solve it with AI. Make it faster or better. Add a research step or add an automation step. There's a lot of things that, like the one thing that I did that gave me immediate value is I automated having a social media manager, right? When a company reaches out to me, they offer me money for a brand deal or et cetera. The first thing that the agent does is the agent will analyze who that company is, and it will take a look and see, like, is it a legitimate company or is it not? It'll analyze the companies that I've worked with in the past to see if it's the type of company I want to work with. And then if it is, it'll just respond with and say, like, hey, like, what are your rates? I try to get them to share their budget, and it knows exactly how much I charge. And so basically, I've created 3 separate cron jobs. Every day, the agent will go through and analyze it and send all of the emails that it needs to, based on the entire inbox, and it will archive a lot of the ones that like aren't that good. And then it sends me a little brief that says, like, okay, these companies don't seem to be ones that you'd be interested in. And then it'll say, like, here are the ones that I've talked to. And then if it's not super confident, it'll write a draft for me and say, like, hey, like, do you want to if you want to send this, here's a link to the draft in Gmail, and it will send me a link to it, and then I'll go in and send the draft. And so that's one example of something that's really, really useful. That one took me 3 days, probably 10 plus hours to set up, because think about it. That's a pretty hard task to get anyone to do. And there's a ton of rules. So I had to make a fake email to send in fake requests to get to test it. And sometimes you have to do that. You have to like create a little testing environment where you can actually test the agent. And I had to set up a separate email for it so I could send it fake emails. And then I would go to the cron job and I would just hit run to see how it would do it. And then after many hours, I got to a point where I'm like, yeah, 95% of the time, this thing says the right thing.
You said 80-90% of the time. And I actually think, because what you just shared is so valuable, but I think about the unintended consequences. Like I've heard use cases of, oh, it deleted this sheet or this piece of data that I needed, or it sent this email. I didn't want it to send this email. Can you share, like, your experience of unintended consequences using these agents because they're autonomous, and then also how you've like reduced those instances over time?
Yes. So first thing, like I said, create a safe environment to do it. Like when I was first testing Notion, I created like a new Notion database with like fake data. What I did is you can actually ask the agent to duplicate a Notion. So if you wanted, because the reason I started doing this is one time when I was using Notion, my agent deleted the file that I was working on and I couldn't figure out how to bring it back. And actually like it didn't update. It would have been super annoying to bring it back. So I had to start over and that was really frustrating. And that was a human error. I forget what my error was. But then now, whenever I'm setting up an automation, what I'll do is I'll just say, hey, can you duplicate this database and put it in a different team space? And then I'll just test the agent there. And so I would advise you to try, wherever you can, create like a dummy email or a dummy database on Notion or a dummy Google Drive folder to test to see how these workflows work. So that if it does make a mistake, it doesn't matter, right? It's all fake. Like it's just dummy data, or maybe it's just a duplicate of a folder. And then when things go wrong, which things will go wrong every once in a while, but like things go wrong with human employees as well, like they make a mistake and it costs company time. It's just part of doing business with humans or agents. And so I think the best thing to do is just to really get clear about what you want. And you can even specify in your instructions, in your skills, or if you're typing a prompt, like literally just say like, don't do these things. And if you catch the mistakes that it does, what you can do, you'll start to learn what to tell it not to do, which is really important. And so to kind of like to conclude here, like the more you work with agents, the better you get at working with them. There's no list of rules. Part of this is just kind of interacting with agents, making sure they get better. And then over time, you're just going to get better at, telling them what not to do, what to do, how to give them instructions. So it's something that you learn as you do it, not necessarily just like following a rule book, which is why it's the most fun skill to learn right now, in my opinion.
Yeah. By the sounds of it, Riley, and thank you so much for all the information you've shared. It's like, it feels like a conversation like this gets you started and it shows you what's possible and some of the use cases and how to get set up. But then it's really a case of you just have to spend time actually building and trying and iterating, and it fails and then you iterate again. And then maybe it makes a mistake and like delete something and you correct off that. That feels like the process of how you get to a place where this is actually valuable.
100%. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, Riley, is there anything, I think about the last time that you and I recorded, hundreds of thousands of people, over 200,000 people found out about vibe coding and what was possible there for the first time. Knowing, obviously we don't know where this conversation will go, but is there anything that you want to say before we get out of here?
One thing I did remember about our last conversation, I promised everyone, I said, hey, if you make an app on any software, doesn't matter which one, and you shared it on Twitter, I'll give you a retweet, and just tag me or tag you in it. I think let's do the same thing. I think I want to challenge you guys to do one specific agent workflow. And you can either screenshot like a cron job, or you can screenshot the output. You can just put the input and the output and say like, I created an agent that solves this problem and it saves me X amount of money or X amount of dollars. I think it would be really useful and fun if you guys posted that on X or something. That's where I learn the most about AI. If you guys are on X, just tag me in that and I'll give it a retweet if it's a good workflow. I think that would be fun. We did that last time.
That's awesome. Riley, you're a star, mate. Thank you so much.
Of course. This was fun. Appreciate it.
This was awesome. So if you enjoyed this conversation and you want to hear even more stories like this, then just click here. And also my team is going to put some more videos that you can watch here. Thank you.